Here's a question Pride and Prejudice never answers directly, but quietly leaves behind. After Elizabeth marries Darcy, what happens when Lydia needs money again? Because she will. Austen tells us as much. Lydia and Wickham continue to spend more than they have, drifting from place to place and relying on the generosity of others. And among the people they turn to are Elizabeth and Darcy. So what happens when one of Lydia's letters arrives at Pemberley? Because this was never really a question about money. It was a question about Wickham, and that made everything complicated.
Jane, congratulations. You're each of you so complying that nothing will ever be resolved on.
Pa.
So easy that every servant will cheat you.
No, indeed.
And so generous that you will always exceed your income.
Consider Jane and Bingley first. For them, helping Lydia is inconvenient, and helping Wickham is embarrassing, but Bingley has no deep personal history with him. No old wound, no betrayal, no memory of a man who nearly ruined his closest friend and tried to elope with his teenage sister.
My sister, who is more than 10 years my junior, went last summer to Ramsgate. Thither also went Mr. Wickham. And he so far recommended himself to Georgina that she was persuaded to believe herself in love and to consent to an elopement.
Darcy does. Every request from Lydia carries a name Darcy has spent years trying not to think about, and that changes the entire emotional landscape. By the time Elizabeth becomes Mrs. Darcy, her husband has already done more for Wickham than anyone could reasonably expect.
I'd be a fool if I married her with a farthing less than £10,000. She's no beauty, connections, or wit.
£10,000 it shall be.
And the discharge of my debts of honour and other debts.
Before the wedding even takes place, Darcy has already intervened. He helped settle the financial arrangements that made Lydia and Wickham's marriage possible, paid debts, and used his influence to secure Wickham's future prospects, all quietly. But not for Wickham, for Elizabeth.
Not thanking you sooner for your kindness to my sister. Or were it known to the rest of the family,
If you will thank me, let it be for yourself alone. Your family owe me nothing. I thought only of you.
That distinction matters because Darcy's actions are often described as generosity, and they are, but they are also an act of endurance. Everything he did required him to help a man he neither respected nor trusted, a man who had lied about him, nearly destroyed Georgiana's future, and shown little evidence of change. By the time the novel ends, Darcy has already paid a considerable price, and yet Austen tells us the story did not end there.
Let us say not farewell, but as the French have it, au revoir!
One of the most realistic things Austen does in Pride and Prejudice is refuse to solve Wickham. He isn't redeemed, he isn't transformed, and he doesn't suddenly become responsible. Instead, he remains exactly who he has always been. And so the requests continue. Austen tells us that Lydia and Wickham repeatedly rely on family members, with Elizabeth and Jane both stepping in, while Darcy continues assisting Wickham in his professional life. The fairy tale wedding happens, but the problem remains. And in some ways, that feels more realistic than a perfect ending ever could, because many marriages don't inherit one great crisis. They inherit one recurring inconvenience, the same problem again and again.
Hill, do you see my ring? I am married. I'm sure my sisters must all envy me.
This is where Elizabeth becomes important. Austen never shows us the conversations between Elizabeth and Darcy about Lydia's requests, but she does show us something about Elizabeth's character. Throughout the novel, Elizabeth meets embarrassment with humor, after Darcy's tolerable remark, after her own mistakes, and whenever situations risk becoming too painful.
Mr. Bingley talking to that conceited gentleman leant against the wall there, a Mr. Darcy, who said of me, "She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me."
For her, humor is not carelessness, but a way of making uncomfortable realities livable. And Lydia is, above all, an uncomfortable reality. The Elizabeth Austen gives us seems unlikely to respond to every crisis with outrage or moral accounting. Instead, she understands something essential. The disaster has already happened. The question is how to live with it.
Come, you'd much better dance.
I certainly shall not. An assembly such as this, it would be insupportable.
And there is another possibility worth considering. The Darcy we meet at Meryton is not quite the same man we see at the end of the novel. The first is guarded, formal, and serious almost to a fault. The leader Darcy is still reserved, but he has learned to acknowledge his mistakes, to laugh at himself, and to accept correction. Austen never says Elizabeth transforms him, but she does show a marriage built on mutual influence. After years at Pemberley, it is not hard to imagine that Elizabeth's way of meeting the world slowly affected him. Not because Wickham became amusing, he didn't. Not because Darcy forgot what happened with Georgiana, he never would. But because living with Elizabeth may have made it easier to treat Lydia's endless crises as irritation rather than catastrophe. The problem remained. The emotional temperature changed. And that difference matters.
If you will thank me, let it be for yourself alone. Your family owes me nothing. Much as I respect them, I believe I thought only of you.
Darcy continues to assist Wickham after the marriage, and he does so for Elizabeth's sake. Not because he admires Wickham, and not because he forgives him, but because Elizabeth matters more. Which suggests that the real achievement of their marriage was never reconciling with Wickham, but learning how to live with the fact that he would always be there.
That young gentleman was the son of the late Mr. Darcy's steward, Mr. Wickham. He's gone into the army now, but he's turned out very wild.
Lizzie, a portrait of dear Wickham. It was in a little cupboard in our room.
Are you expecting anyone else tonight?
No.
Wickham is shot for Bob. I know it. He's dying in the woods. Please help him, someone.
A permanent annoyance, a permanent obligation, and a permanent reminder of old mistakes. And somehow, together, they make that manageable.
I very nearly destroyed the most precious thing in the world to me.
Let's look to the past only as it gives us pleasure.
Jane Austen never writes the scene where Elizabeth carries one of Lydia's letters into Darcy's study. She leaves that moment to our imagination. But she gives us enough to picture its shape. Not a dramatic confrontation, not a demand for forgiveness, just two people who have learned how to carry an old problem together. Darcy helps because Elizabeth asks. Elizabeth asks because she knows he loves her. And both understand that some family problems are never solved, only managed. Tell me in the comments, do you think Darcy ever truly moved past his feelings about Wickham? Or did he simply learn, with Elizabeth's help, how to live with them? I'm Sana. This is Monica's Pie. The story's never just the story.